So today we talk about the Arahants. Arahant are the enlightened ones. So there are 4 types of Arahant or the full enlightenment. We previously talked about the 4 levels enlightenment from supreme enterer, once returner, non-returner, and then the full enlightenment or the Arahants. There are 4 types of Arahants. What are they? First one called Sukkhavipassaka, in Thai called Sukkhavipassaka. They dry inside Arahant. They attain enlightenment through pure insight meditation, vipassana, and without developing deep concentration or jhāna. But normally they said even that, at the time of enlightenment, they get to the first jhāna at appana samadhi there. So they don't have no supernormal power. So the second group are the Tevijjā, like a 3 knowledge. Arahant with threefold knowledge possesses 3 special knowledges. One is recollection of past lives. Second is knowledge of others' rebirths. And third is destruction of defilements. So the Buddha of the life is enlightenment. He went through these all 3. Like the first third of the night, he recollect his past life. In the second third of the night, he had knowledge of others being rebirth. And then the final third of the night, he completed his destruction of defilements and attained enlightenment by dawn, full moon, the 6 lunar months, over 2,600 years ago. I think about 2,610 years ago. So, and 9 years ago. So the third one is Chala Pinya. Chala means 6. Pinya, Apinya means like superpower. So they are Arahant with 6 superpowers. They gain 6 kinds of higher knowledge, Apinya, including psychic powers, divine ears, and mind reading, clairvoyance, and the other 3 more are the same as a Tevijja, recollection of past life, knowledge of other being, rebirth, and destruction of defilements. So like Mokkhalana is like that. And the 4th type is Paccekabuddha. These are Arahant with analytical insight, master of 4 analytical knowledges, meaning Artha. He can describe the meaning of the Dharma in detail. Doctrine, he can sum up what's his summary as, which like topic headings and so on. They can summarize into heading and explain in detail in the meaning and so on. In the language, Nirutti, he fluent in the way to express it through the particular language, in English or Thai, whatever, depends on their native language. And the 4th nature is a quick-wittedness, Patipadana, like quick in catching up responding to the question or situation, how to solve it, and so on. Often skilled in teaching and explaining Dharma. Like we have an example for that. Like Luang Por Thien was like a first group dry insight Arahant. He practiced some meditation for 8 years before, but didn't go anywhere, this and that. But then he tried very hard, went into the rainy retreats, and after 3 days of practice, the first day was nothing because they give him the theme of practice that he already tried previously those 8 years without anything. Then he recalled the technique of this dynamic rhythmic meditation, and he gained self-awareness, and things went on very fast. In that second day, he already started getting attained enlightenment right away, and completed it in that 3-day periods, 4 levels of stream entry, once return and non-returning, became full enlightenment. As a lay person, okay, and he taught other people after that. 2.5 years later, he became a monk, as in that picture. The reason he became a monk because he depleted the family funds by hiring people to come to learn from him, because he's so kind to want people to learn the truth, the ultimate truth. So he challenged them: if you earn $1,000 a month, I'll pay you $1,000 a month, but come to practice truthfully, and then you will witness the truth. So he's a kind of person like that. So he didn't have any special mental power and so on. But even that, my teacher, like Kemananda, he said, when he got stuck somehow in his practice, somehow Lompo Tien would come to rescue him. Like sometimes about 500 kilometers or more, like at least 300 miles away from Bangkok to Southern Thailand in Songkhla, at least 5 or 600 kilometers from Bangkok. He came on a train and told him what to do, and then left the next morning just to give the hint to get him out of trouble, that he gets stuck in his practice in insight meditation. So how did he know? He looked almost like clairvoyance and so on. And the Buddha mentioned that Tevijjā has those 3 knowledge at the night of his enlightenment. But he's know much more than that. Else he can do much more, like magical power and read other people's minds, so on. So it has more than that 3 knowledge. The basic knowledge is required to the third one, destruction of defilements. The Arahant with 6 superpowers, like Mokkhalana is a good example, is supreme in the mental powers. He can have magical power as good as the Buddha in terms of that. He can fly, levitate and so on, do other much more, many things. It described, but in Buddhism we don't emphasize those kind of things, so it's never been described too much on there. Because that's not, sometimes even the Buddha forbid them to do that. He said, like a female exposing your genital organ to the public, if you do that. Very serious. So no one dare do that. Yeah, to the public. Yeah, he can levitate up to the window on the 7 stories in that one story to haunt the millionaire or billionaire back then. He was so stingy. Like try to make like donuts with his wife at the top level, 7th floor, and don't want to share with anybody. That's why. So he just flew up there and had to stand there. He had to share with him on those donut, the Indian donut. And fourth one, we have example like Payutto Samdet Paccekabuddha. He's very fluent in analytical insight. He wrote many books, taught many Dharma courses, and even been recognized even by UNESCO as the world authority on massage on Buddhism and so on. Then there's another fifth type that some place had come to describe that too. Let's list on the first one. Upatopaka nimitta, Upatopaka vimutta. Liberate in both ways. I mean, liberate both from concentration meditation and insight meditation. Master both the formless meditative attainments, jhāna. That means you get to the highest formless divine absorption, jhāna. They're like 8 level. First 4, a lot of people can reach that. But those are form divine jhāna. And then the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th formless divine jhāna. They're formless because they lose their 5 sense sphere. They don't have eye, ear, nose, tongue, and body to perceive things. All have mind. That's why the 2 previous teacher of the Buddha, when the Buddha was thinking of them to teach, they already passed a week or 2 weeks before. One of them 1 week before, and the other one 2 weeks before. He said they're in grave danger because they would get stuck there for eons and eons of lifetime without any sensual sphere to perceive the teaching. They can't hear, they can't see, can't understand. They only mind with no perception. So that's why I said they're in grave danger because they got stuck there. So develop profound wisdom, panya, besides formless meditative attainments of jhāna to the 8th level, and develop profound wisdom, panya, to destroy all defilements. The mind of this Arahant is said to be unshakable, a kappa. So one of my teachers, Mahaprabhu, proclaimed that he's Upatopaka Vimutta. I mean, he attained enlightenment on both ways, both meditative, formless, in the jhāna, as well as insight, wisdom, panya. So he proclaimed himself that he achieved through both ways. As you can see, those things on the lotus leaf, those are the blood relics. It turned into like pearls of orange or brownish color from his blood. Blood or any pus from the swab serum from his body, it turned into those kind of things. And we mentioned the other Hilopotien is like Sukkhavipassaka. The Buddha attained the Tevijjā, the Nadis, like Chalapanya, like Mokkhalana. There are many more. These are just examples. And Paccekabuddha, Pada is that Samdet Paccekabuddha took the course Ajahn. Not Samdet Buddha, Samdet Paccekabuddha course Ajahn. Payutto. He's very famous, very renowned. There are 3 kinds of Arahant. What are they? The enlightened one. In Buddhism, there are 3 types of enlightened being who have achieved Nirvana. That's the ultimate peace and happiness, differing primarily in how they attain enlightenment and whether they teach or not, other people, others or not. There's some people who attain enlightenment but didn't want to teach. Luang Por Tien would say they learn the truth, but they don't love the truth. You see, they don't have enough compassion to teach other people. But this is not in that. But it's just some example. Some people know it but didn't want to teach because the Buddha almost didn't want to teach at the beginning because when he attained enlightenment, because he said this is so profound, very subtle. Who would understand that? But then out of his compassion has been reflected as a person, like the Brahma came to, one of the Brahmas, the Brahma came to beg him to teach other people, that people with a little defilement would be able to reach enlightenment. Like Sariputta and Moggallana, attain first level enlightenment, simply learn that thing has a cause, that the Buddha taught the cause and the end of suffering. And by hearing that, he attained first level enlightenment, become a stream enterer. So is his Moggallana, without having met the Buddha. So the three kinds of Arahant. The first one called Sammasambuddha. Sammasambuddha. And Mahayana they call it Samyaksambuddha. Is the way they pronounce it a little different. Second type, Paccekabuddha. The first two are self-enlightenment, and the third, the Arahant is the general Arahant is the enlightened followers. Sakkhavipassaka, they learn from the first group. So, what's the quality on this Sammasambuddha? It's like a Buddha, Shakyamuni Buddha, perfectly enlightened one. It's based on this method of awakening. And Sammasambuddha independently rediscovered. So it's an old path. It has eon of dark age without any enlightened being. Then he would rediscover the path to liberation at a time when the Dhamma of Buddhist teachings has been lost to the world, eons of dark age. Many million, billion years. The role and function. Such person not only achieves perfect enlightenment, purity, but also possesses the supreme wisdom and compassion to teach a path to others. The historical Buddha, Siddhartha Gautama, is the prime example of a Sammasambuddha. In our tradition, these are the virtues of the Buddha: purity, compassion, and wisdom. In Mahayana, they have a good point. They say these three virtues are the three faces of the same thing. Because of his wisdom, he attained enlightenment with purity, perfect purity, and he could not help other people, not to teach them. The compassion come into play that make him with his compassion to teach other beings to attain enlightenment. Legacy. Sammasambuddha established a Sangha, a community of practitioners. Some Buddhas did not establish disciplinary rules. Subsequently, their Sangha did not last long. The Buddha cite some of the previous Buddha did not lay down discipline. The Buddha himself, this Shakyamuni Buddha, did not lay the discipline rule until 20 years after his enlightenment, because he says not time yet. People answered, and how did he lay it? He laid out from there is some incident, like some monks, getting naughty, like touch the girl butt and so on. So people come and complain to the Buddha. So we have to draw down a guideline. Don't do that. That's you break it. This is a discipline rule, right there, and don't deviate from that. So it become like 227 precepts later. So each one has certain incident that end up with that. For the male monk, females 311 precepts, much more. They're more, they're being groomed very hard. To continue propagating the Dharma, the spiritual Sangha to continue propagating, like we reap the benefit because the Buddha passed away 2,568 years ago. But we still learn Buddhism up to this day. We still have Arahant around. And I met at least 10 of them in my lifetime. So very fortunate. And bringing the light of truth to the world. There are not as many as during the Buddha's time. There was Arahant. But it's still around. Buddha said, as long as people still practice this middle path, the four foundations, they will come to attain enlightenment. So very fortunate, especially Ananda, have laid down what the Buddha taught and so on. We will talk about it in the future about him. So before we become the Sammasambuddha, to be a bodhisattva, what the aspect of bodhisattva, compassion and wisdom. The central tenet is the vow to attain perfect enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings, driven by immense compassion. You see how later on. Because they delay Nirvana themselves, unlike an Arahant who seeks personal Nirvana. A Bodhisattva postpones their final liberation from the cycle of rebirth of desire to alleviate suffering for others. This great compassion. He wants to help others. Many, many more to attain enlightenment after following his teaching. So multiple rebirths for them. To achieve their vow, a bodhisattva is reborn many times, sometimes in different forms and species, to practice and perfect the paramita or barami perfections, like generosity and good conduct. Even the Buddha himself described in some of his past life he was an elephant and so on. Vow to enlightenment, bodhisattva path involve a strong and sincere aspiration to become a fully awakened Buddha. So that's his commitment. Once he commit there, nothing deviates from that, unless he dissolve his vow. He can hold back, say, I want to end it now. They can do that. But once they're being forecast, like the next one, you lock in there. You can't do that. Receive a prophecy. So ascetic Sumedha was prophecies by the ancient Buddha Tipangara, Tipankon, to become a future Buddha. Once you receive that, you lock in. You become one of his lineage, more or less, or dynasty of the Buddhas. You can't escape from that. You lock in. You cannot disavow it. It's been forecast by the Buddhists of the previous Buddha. So what are the other 10 paramis or 10 perfections? One, generosity, dana, selfless giving and compassion. Like this current Buddha, Shakyamuni, his last life was Vesadon. He's a crown prince who gave everything, his belongings, his elephant, even his wealth. He was chased out of town because of his too much giving to the people, like auspicious sign, like the white elephant and so on. People get upset and so on. And then even given his son and daughter, and even his wife away. So second, morality, sila, virtuous conduct, and ethical behavior. This is a different life. They do general, but they're more profound in certain life, in generosity, like Vesadon and Dana, in sila, in different life, as ascetic and so on. Renunciation, nekkhamma, contentment and letting go of material desire. Wisdom, panya, discernment, insight, and ability to understand reality. Even though they may know the way, but they didn't give in to become enlightened at that time. They just give it up to their vow, to end in Sammasambuddha later on in current life. Energy, virya, intelligence, effort, and vigor in practice. Patience, khanti, tolerance, acceptance, and endurance. Truthfulness, satya, honesty, integrity in speech and action. Determination, adhitthana, firm resolve and commitment to goals. Loving kindness, metta, goodwill and friendliness towards all being. Intent, equanimity, upekkha, serenity, balance, and evenness of mind. So these are the 10 perfections that all the Buddha, Sammasambuddha, the self-enlightenment, has to commit themselves to. So each one is more profound in one life for him, at least 10 lives. So he much more than this, but this 10 last lifetime was, each one was aiming at those goals. He was born in the eon of many lives. But the last 10 were like that. So talking about Sumedha, ascetic, became a bodhisattva. How he began. It began like this, as in the picture. The encounter with Tipankon Buddha. Prophecy occurred many eons ago in the previous life of the historical Buddha, Siddhartha Gautama. As is the name as a Prince Siddhartha. Gautama is his family name. A selfless act, as Tipankon Buddha approached, Sumedha saw that a section of the road was muddy. To allow the Buddha and his monks to pass without soiling their feet, Sumedha prostrated himself on the ground, offering his own body as a bridge. Prediction was moved by this act of profound reverence and devotion. Dipankar Buddha paused and made a prophecy. He declared that Sumedha would many lifetimes in the future be reborn as the Buddha, Shakyamuni, Gautama Buddha. The Bodhisattva Sumedha accepted this prophecy. You have to accept that too. And at that moment, formally took the vow of a Bodhisattva. He became one of his dynasty of being Sammasambuddha, being in his clan, more or less, being dedicated to achieving enlightenment for the benefit of all living beings, rather than seeking only his own liberation. So now let's talk about second group, Paccekabuddha. Paccekabuddha in Mahayana, they name slightly different. Pratyekabuddha, they have the R in there in Sanskrit. We in the Pali language, or the commoner. Sanskrit more the higher aristocrat language. Silent or solitary Buddha. They also self-enlightened method of awakening. Paccekabuddha also achieve enlightenment on their own without a teacher. This typically occurs in the dark or spiritually destitute age, so like eon of dark age, when the Sammasambuddha is not present. Because if Sammasambuddha is there, you have the text to follow, like all of us. So it has to be a dark age. Role and function, unlike a Sammasambuddha, a Paccekabuddha does not have the capacity or motivation to teach others how to achieve enlightenment. Like to me, I think it's not only motivation, the capacity is very important, because you have to have enough wisdom to summarize it up. Like this is dividend arising, this is a Four Noble Truth arising and receding pathway or ceasing pathway. So they see the truth. Paccekabuddha saw the truth but could not summarize it up to make other people to follow. Don't have the full foundation, can lay down full foundations of mindfulness for you to follow to attain enlightenment. They do not form a sangha because they don't teach anyone and live a solitary life. While they may give ethical guidance, they do not reveal the full path to Nirvana. I think they're limited in their super wisdom in there to do that. Their description there at some time in the past, there could be 4 Paccekabuddha in that same era, and they came to meet each other, talk to each other, but each one were self-enlightened, but they cannot draw up the guideline because they lack that kind of wisdom like Sammasambuddha. Realization of Paccekabuddha is said to attain liberation by contemplating the principle of dependent arising or dependent origination. It's the same thing. When you see the same truth, it has to see the same truth by themselves, though. Even the follower Buddha has to see it by. The Buddha cannot enlighten you. He can give you the way. He can point out the way. You yourself have to make the effort for the following Buddha or the Arahant. So Paccekabuddha must complete the following in their past lives to reach enlightenment. They have to practice the 10 perfections, just like the Sammasambuddha. but not as long. This includes generosity, like dana, morality, sila, wisdom, panya, but at a less intense level than Sammasambuddha. They train over 2 incalculable eons. Aspiration. The aspirant trains for a period described as 2 incalculable periods, asongkhai, and 100,000 world periods, kat. So went through many worlds and through many incalculable periods. Receive a prophecy, the form of aspiration is typically made in the presence of a living Buddha. So they need to leave a living Buddha to make a prophecy as well. Oops. And basically they attain enlightenment on those different arising. Basically the same. The Arahant are fully enlightened, the following Buddha, the worthy one. Method of awakening, an Arahant is enlightened disciples who attain liberation by following the teaching, the Dharma of a Sammasambuddha. Roles and function, and Arahants have eradicated all defilements and are free from the cycle of rebirth. They may teach others, but they do so by passing on the teachings they receive from the Buddha, not through their own independent rediscovery of the Dharma, because they follow the teaching of the Buddha, so they cannot proclaim it's their own independent. No case like that neither in the past. Limitation. In Theravada Buddhism, Arahantship is the ultimate goal of the spiritual path. In fact, Nirvana is the ultimate goal in all branches of Buddhism. But again, there are different levels of enlightenment. To reach Nirvana, you have to be an Arahant. In Mahayana, the way they describe is a little bit different. Realization of an Arahant is not as complete as that of a Buddha. They receive the same purity, I'm sure. An Arahant primarily seeks their own liberation, lacking the vast compassion of a bodhisattva, because they haven't practiced that in the past. An Arahant has same purity, though less wisdom than the Buddha. That's well known even in our branch that I added there. We all have this Buddha nature there. The Buddha nature already exists in everyone, regardless of age, sex, race, literacy, dialect, profession, or even religious belief. So, but the Buddha say, you yourself has to make the effort. The Buddhists only pointed out a way. He cannot enlighten you. You have to make your own enlightenment. Have to put in your effort. Basically, to me, this is self-awareness, sampajanya, which is equal to the Buddha or Buddha's enlightenment. You need to cultivate that. You have the Buddha seed, the Buddha nature, but if you don't cultivate it, you waste your life away. Once you activate it, cultivate this self-awareness, you can become a follower of Buddha. And you can clear your mind, see the true nature of the mind, equanimous mind. Neutral, equanimous, void and empty mind. Buddha and Arahant's relics, these are the description, is a phenomenon that we witness some here too. Like these are the Buddha's relics of Lama Sopa Rinpoche. They have a tour across United States about 20 years ago, 20 some years. They brought it here. So this is a picture that I took from that. Like from the top row, like say maybe the ash can form those little round tiny balls. They're about 1 centimeter size, a little bit less. And the middle top is from his blood vessels and some other part of his body and the rest of them. Some other, maybe his bone or teeth and so on. And some other part of his body. The Arahant, the follower Buddhas, these are my own collection. They're like grain of rice, Chinese grain of rice, which normally when you cremate, they're more like chalky looking. They don't look shiny like that. These are about, 2 or 3 millimeter size. And these are the holy lyrics of the Lord Buddha. I saw that in India in 1997 in New Delhi at the National Museum of India. It's almost touchable. I can reach it, the glass display, glass box there. Basically, on the top, on the left, they also inscribe on the urn on that in the old army language, which is the time the Buddha language. Some scholars said the language is about 100 years after or 200 years after Buddha passed away. But there were a written language at the time of the Buddha, because it was described in the Tripitaka Buddhist Canon. I'm sure those are inscribed at those old urns there, the one I saw, those big ones. Those are the bones from the skull of the Buddha display. That was the second set in the same mound. You can see in 1898, William Pepys, he's a civil engineer, British civil engineer who was working in northern India and then northeastern India, and then he's an amateur archaeologist, and he dug up a mound, and in there he found that urn that shown on the top left that inscribed those words. These are the holy letters of the Lord Buddha that you see in those language at the top there. And but then he number one, he's a amateur archaeologist, so he invited professional archaeologists to look at him. But that one is a German guy, but he turned out to be a fake guy. So, and the British and the Viceroy was kind of concerned. This guy may have messed up with this and that. They thought these are the Buddhist relics. So, but then there was one monk from our royal family who was in Sri Lanka at that time, went up to see it, and then he would talk to the viceroy and advise to give them because we are a Buddhist country, to King Rama V. This is about 1898, about 2 years later, was given to this Rama V, and so it was housed in Bangkok here. Those set in Bangkok at the Golden Mountain at the top pagoda there. This is about 80 meters high. And he sent his crown prince he was not well by that time, to put it in this pagoda, about 80 meters high, 77 to the top of level, and then top deck, and then it's about 7 meters on the pagoda. So on the Arahant side, on the urn you saw on the bottom look older. those urns they found in the marble coffer, and along with other like gems and jewelries and so on. But then about close to 100 years later, um, an Indian archaeologist dug deeper from the place that William Pepys found the first urn, and found these two urns at the bottom, the one I saw, and it's housed at the Natural Museum of India in New Delhi. Those are they dug a little bit deeper. In fact, William Pepys would have done that because his niece encouraged him to do so, but he already tired and was excited to find a big treasure already, a great treasure. So he said, that's enough. So the Indian archaeologist, about 100 years later, or 90 years later, dug deeper and found the older sets there. So the first set may have been brought from other place to bring it over here because maybe the first pagoda or first mile was ruined and turned to ruin, so they move it to put it together. I don't know. No one knows. And on the right side is the Arahant, the follower Buddha. And the other set, this is also mine. Used to be like that. It turned into gems, different color. Each one about 2 millimeter size. It's not that big, but very tiny. Used to be 4, now has 5. I got it from my friend, and I tried to get the story where he got it from. Finally, we found out it was from Wat Sutat in Bangkok, but they don't know whose relics that those belong to. So arousing thoughts from ignorance, not seeing the truth, being a fool, cause mental impulse, taint the mind, mental consciousness. They make thoughts, imagination, retain the sixth sense sphere, embodiment. So contact feeling got corrupted, become craving and clinging with the thought, becoming the thoughts, the biased thought, both into the thoughts, and the thought rise and bow down with grief, sorrow, lamentation setting. Because of that, it allows your ego, I am small, it's with awareness, like we practice, it will let you allow to see the truth, come out of those ignorance, because you see it broke down the cycle, samsara and nirvana, ultimate peace and happiness. As mentioned, Ananda, personal attendant of the Buddha, said, the way to attain enlightenment is to practice samatha and vipassana. They develop 2 qualities, can be attained through one of the 4 approach. One is insight preceded by tranquility. So you practice tranquility, and then once your mind is calming down, get concentrate, you turn into insight, see the 3 universal minds. You gain a mental strength to see insight, see the true nature of things are impermanent, imperfect, and selfless. Or you can practice tranquility preceded by insight, but insight alone doesn't have enough power, so you need mental power to break through. So you saw things decaying, get through a cycle of birth and death and so on, but you don't have enough strength, mental strength. You need a mental strength to push it forward to get the breakthrough enlightenment. And third group is practice in tandem together, tranquility and both tranquility and insight simultaneously, balancing the 2 qualities in a yoga concurrent fashion. And then fourth is mind under control, mind has already overcome restlessness. So as long as your mind becomes steady, that's good enough to regarding the Dharma. You can come to see that, and it become inwardly steady, settle, concentrate, which naturally give rise to the path. Once you have Sammasati and Sammasamadhi, Sammasati like righteous mindfulness and righteous concentration, it gives rise to Samadhi, the right wisdom, to see dependent arising and the Four Noble Truths. Some, like we talk about tranquility meditations, like you being wrapped or fixate your mind at the mental object. You don't get enlightened. You get mental object become the major play the major role with mindfulness, but no self-awareness, wisdom in action. So no enlightenment. But it gives you mental strength. It strengthens your mind, like you shine a laser light in one direction, one beam. You only see one thing, which is mental object. Unlike a vipassana insight meditation, like a lighthouse, you can see all directions, or like a full moon night, it shines. You can see everything on a full moon night, even though in darkness you see everything there. Or like a floodlight at the parking lot, they can see mental object is that pose that hold the mind there. Like in certain mental object, like you can observe through your dynamic meditation or through mindful breathing and so on. As a mental object, but the mind is the play role, the major role, play major role there to see. So you gain both mindfulness and sampajanya, self-awareness, wisdom in action, lead to repression and enlightenment because you have wisdom in action with mental strength from the mindfulness. It's like a dog being chained there, is not being wrapped there or not fixated there. That's why I emphasize don't fixate your mind at your hand or your feet or your breath, because you only see whatever you fixate your mind. But a dog that's being chained or anchored, a boat is anchored there, it's still floating around or can run around the chain. Sometimes the anchor or the post is like a wire, like on the top of the lower picture, like a rod there. They can slide the chain around further, so give you more room, like you more flexibility. You get more wisdom in action there. You're not being wrapped to the post or to the wire. So you gain mental strength as well as seeing things. So normally when you unaware, absent-minded, drifting away in your thoughts, so your mind is no longer focused, not it's absent-minded, unsteady mind, lack of steady mind. It's like a weakened mindful awareness, like a kitten. You see a mouse or a rat, you don't know what to do with it because you don't know it's harming. Mouse and rat is destroying, eating up your belonging, tearing things down. But with awareness, you got samadhi, you spot it, you back to the concentrated mind, with your mind still overlooked with self-awareness. The steady mind occurs. So you can practice like this by always kept your mind like guarding the drifting mind. That's easy way to gain steady mind by watching the unsteady mind. When your mind drifting away, it's like swiftly recognize or remember clearly, called Tevijjā. Then you automatically gain steady mind. It's the easier way to gain steady mind. That's the fourth way that Ananda was described, a mind under control. So by seeing the drifting mind, you can gain steady mind. Like you catch your thought all the time. Initially, you don't see it because it's so fast, but then when your mind is getting stronger, get swifter, when it's concentrate and catch all the sneaky thoughts. In fact, Luang Por Tien that teaches this dynamic meditation said, don't stop thinking, but don't slip into the thoughts. The more you think, the more you're aware. So he used the thought as a way to catch your mind. And it helped because this dynamic meditations, dynamic rhythmic meditation, you can see the rhythm and also is swift in catching the sneaky thoughts. Become a strengthened mindful awareness, like a full-grown cat, no longer a kitten. You can wipe out a mouse in one swift move. So he also advised Vipassana inside meditation. Forget the front. He said, don't look at that is project on the screen. They're playing you. You're playing the actor or actress there. You don't follow them. That's your thoughts. But catch the back or watch your six. That's an idiom here. So that's where your mind projecting form wrong. So he advised that. Catch the thought as it arises. And he advised of self-awareness. Cultivate your self-awareness, pure awareness. Know without knowing anything. Or Eminent, his students say, know not a thing. He even equate to like agnosia. That's the true meaning of agnosia is know not a thing, but in fact it's very valuable if you're not in a concept. Just like I said in the past, in suffering there's no suffering. In suffering, that means you're in the conceptual world, in the thoughts, that you grieve for this and that, didn't get what you want, so your loved one passed away and so on. But in that, there's no suffering, because that's not the pure mind. When you abandon that conceptual thoughts, you're back to the ultimate truth, ultimate reality. It's pure mind, without concepts, without thoughts. It's empty, voided mind. So mind play a major role, like chaining to a mental object, like your breath or the rhythmic movement, seeing the true nature of things as they really are, with mindfulness and self-awareness, or wisdom in action. Just like you see it with bird's eye view, or drone view this day. So mind seeing the thought, like each car, like each thought. Again, you say, don't stop thinking, like you said, but don't slip into the thoughts. Luang Por Tien said that. The more you think, the more you know. You saw many cars pass by, but you're not jumping to each car. If you jump to the car, that means you're in that thoughts. So you kind of lost it. You lack of mindful awareness. So suffering arises from one's thoughts. Another teacher of mine, Buddha Natulo, saying similar thing but opposite way. He said, no matter how hard you think, you won't understand. Unless you stop thinking, then you understand. Yet you need thoughts to eventually understand. Did you get it? Very hard. Because if you don't have thoughts, you're running on a smooth uh, track. Thoughts is like a hurdle that you jump. You see the thoughts. Otherwise, but the thinking is not a way to see it. But the hurdle that you see, that you slip in, you see the thought pop up, but you don't indulge the thoughts. Okay, indulge the thought, that means you in the thinking, but you just see the thought like a hurdle. You just jump the hurdle and keep on going forward. You don't like you don't get into this car or that car, or that plane, this plane, if it's flying, when the bus and whatever, each thought is different. He said, saying the same thing. Nowadays, people suffer out of their thought, out of their own thoughts, saying the same thing as Lopati, but different way to present how to catch it. So you need to observe unbiasedly of such thought. Do not anticipate. Don't expect a bus coming by, or a red car, yellow car coming by. Don't indulge in, or don't jump to each thought in each car or each bus. And don't intervene, let it pass. Remain in the equanimous mind, the true nature of your mind. Then you'll be no suffering among suffering. So it's like being caged in the biased thought, like being autoplane or sneaky thought trap you there in your mind, and because of unawareness. Being a fool of not knowing Four Noble Truths, suffering, cause of suffering, end of suffering, middle patterns, not knowing you're trapped in the thought of the past, trapped in the thought of the future, trapped in the thought pass into the future, the stream of thoughts, and not know the present is the dependent arising, the cause and effect for such event, phenomenon to appear in front of you. So when you catch all that and let it pass, not cling to anything, like the Buddha said, all phenomena not worth clinging to. You empty all those sneaky thoughts. In suffering, there's no suffering, right? So neutral, equanimous, empty, voided, selfless, not self-mind. Back to the true nature of your mind. Become a liberator. So Buddha said all phenomena are not worth clinging to. By practicing 24/7 mindful meditation that we did, cultivate mindfulness and self-awareness through perseverance, cultivate self-awareness, which lead to wisdom, and mindfulness lead to concentrated mind. And put in continuous effort, 24/7 perseverance through dynamic meditation, because we move all the time. Simply apply it to any movement. Observe the body, feeling, mind, mental phenomena, four aspects of life. Get rid of desiring undesirable nature that arises at the body, feeling, mind, mental phenomena. Observe the true nature of things, that impermanent, imperfect, selfless nature, unstable, unbearable, uncontrollable, leading to insight, wisdom. See the true nature of things, that all phenomena are not worth clinging to. See the burden of clinging to them. You end up carrying your ego around, which is only self-concept, self-image, hologram, not truly existing. When you realize that you become disenchanted at such a burden that you've been a fool, get discerned, dispassionate, and liberated, released from suffering. And that's it.